Hello, Internet. My name is Chamomile.
And I'm Mother Hunger.
Of course you are. So,
What brings you to the depths of Arkansas, my child?
misfortune, which I expect is the answer for most people.
You're not wrong.
So, you are the mayor of Little Rock?
Indeed.
Can you also do the voice thing? Like, not to impose, but it is tradition that everyone on this podcast, except for me, always sounds like Requiem.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, someone invoked the name of the great hag mother, and I just, I happened to be in the area, so figured I'd see what was up.
Well, welcome to the show. So there are these three sins that the High Pontiff allegedly had weighing down his heart. Those being, there was like, so and there were the High Pontiff was afflicted with 3 wounds that you must afflict yourself with in order to enter the Mother of Mothers and confront him. So there's the first one. The sin, either the sin or the virtue that cancels it, I can't remember, but is attrition? I don't know what that... That's like a process. That doesn't seem to have any moral quality to it. Oh, hey. Having literally entered the sewer level, do you have any sewer level topics that you want to discuss?
Is this a sewer level in the sense that it's very friendly, or is it level in a...
Yeah, no, it is simply a literal level taking place in a sewer. There's a power up in there. Why am I skipping it?
Blessed are the eyes that with devotion see my toil.
So yeah, this is what the health upgrades are in this game.
Let the ones who are
Is it always this lady?
and fasting come to
It is.
for they are
She has 7 health upgrades to give you. Each one is one of those 7 swords.
thoroughly blessed. Take the first one
We only get a cutscene for the first one, though.
6 mortal stains.
Sort of looks like Our Lady of the Seven Sorrows. It's an image of the Virgin Mary. Mary is less of a focus in most forms of Protestantism. I don't know how much she comes up in Mormonism.
Almost not at all. She is vaguely a symbol of motherhood, but she is not given a particular divinity the way she is in Catholicism. What is this? Just a bone. Bones do nothing. They are merely a collectible. You do get a neat skin for collecting them all, but
Are they like supposed to be the bones of saints?
yeah. That's their aesthetic, is that each one of them even has a little...
You see, you're supposed to have a holy relic, like a part of a saint, to make a cathedral. And there have been some redundancies. Like there's enough pieces of the true cross to make like 5 crosses. I think one cathedral has supposedly had Jesus's foreskin. And there's one saint, I think she had a vision of her ring turning Jesus's foreskin.
Of her what now turning into?
Her ring.
Her ring.
Which, kind of intersecting with the topic of Renaissance art, in Renaissance art, the Renaissance artists, a lot of times they'd be drawing these figures from the Bible who were Jewish, but they would very rarely, they're doing the nude figure, would very rarely portray them as being circumcised. Presumably because their models were
Right.
Just Christians. Now, as long as I am here, let's talk about hags.
Okay, sure. I suppose we may as well.
Yeah, there's different ways to do hags in a fantasy setting. Galarian, I don't like the way Pathfinder does it, where they're like some sort of weird all-female cuckoo race. I say cuckoo in the sense of the cuckoo bird, because the cuckoo bird does the brood parasitism, which
What?
I don't know. I don't like having them be a separate species.
Pathfinder lore? Not very good? Say it isn't so.
Yeah, in Pathfinder lore, they because it always has as a weird sex angle is what they do is they go and they seduce mortal men and then have the child and then go back to the family and switch the child out with a human child, and then their child grows up to be a changeling who is a player character race that always has heterochromia. I don't know why Pathfinder decided this real thing was going to be there. Also mean in Pathfinder lore, the person was a hag. And eventually the changeling can turn into a hag. Like, they never actually have any sort of mechanics for this. There's an archetype where if you're changeling, you can take it and you'll turn into a hag, but that happens at level 20.
Oh, come on. Hags are like CR6 tops.
Yeah, I think the highest level hag is like CR12, the night hag, and is like really over CR'd looking at its actual abilities. And then I think a sea hag is like CR3.
Yeah, sea hags and green hags are pretty low CR. And, exact CR varies depending on edition, of course, but that's right.
Yeah, towards the end of like we've talked about archetypes. Originally, they were pretty good about not trying to stretch the archetype out over 20 levels and just having it affect the levels it needed to affect to get the concept off. As time went on, they got worse and worse, particularly of the transformative classes, the transformative archetypes, of wanting the full transformation to be your level 20 capstone. And it's like, a hag is not a level 20 concept.
Yeah. See, there is a problem in slightly embarrassing to get this guy once, let alone twice. I say this guy, like I'm pretty sure those are boobs, but yeah, there is a problem in lots of game design, particularly in 3rd edition game design, 3rd edition derived at least, for whatever reason, where it is assumed that all concepts are 20th level concepts. Right? It's like they had their vigilante character class, which was their superhero themed character class, where by level 20 you were Spider-Man. And they had this hag transformation thing where at level 20 you can transform into a hag. But, the problem with that is that Spider-Man and hags, these are not 20th level concepts.
Like, I think your capstone ability for the Spider-Man one was web slaying. So you can do web slaying at like level 16 or something.
Yeah, like web slaying is at most a 10th level power. 5th or 6th level would not be unreasonable. Grant some protection against toxins. will it allow me to just go walking straight into a toxic gas? I don't think so. I think that comes later. May as well equip that one, though.
Oh, they're rosary beads.
Yep.
I think in 5th edition hags are some sort of nature spirit. They're fae, right?
I believe so, yes. I think they have the Fey type.
Obviously, I think a hag needs to either be some sort of nature spirit or like witch plus, like super witch.
Yeah. Hag's either a nature spirit or something that happens when you do just a lot of witchcraft. The idea that doing enough witchcraft can transform you into something, I like.
Yeah.
So I'm down with that angle on hags.
Random trivia: why do witches have green skin?
At a guess, I would say because the Wicked Witch of the West had green skin in The Wizard of Oz.
Why does she have green skin?
I don't know. Random studio decision. I don't know if the look predated that.
It did not. It's to show off the Technicolor.
That makes sense.
Like the Wizard of Oz is back when we had a monoculture, so movies successful, super successful, and can really change the way we see something culturally. So the Wicked Witch of the West sort of became the iconic witch, and she has green skin. So then from there forth, all witches have green skin.
See, now I'm getting all these
same with
upgrades that
like
would've been
ruby
really useful in
slippers.
that
Like in
boss.
the actual Wizard of Oz, like in the book, that's silver slippers, but the ruby became so iconic that it's like you cannot do a Wizard of Oz adaptation and have it be silver slippers.
Right.
Even if you're trying to be closer to the book, you would have to do ruby slippers.
And I mean, things like altering the color of something are really minor changes anyway. Like, if you're trying to do something close to the book, then I guess the witch is a Cyclops with the magic helmet or whatever, but,
Yeah, that's how she controls the flying monkeys.
But she can still, she can still have green skin and you can still have ruby slippers because I don't think that really makes a difference one way or the other. Like, trying to get minor details like that right mainly just gets you Shadow of Mordor.
Yeah.
Which is, a treasure trove of obscure Tolkien lore, but not a very Tolkien story. In fairness, like, at the end, everything does go terribly wrong in the way that, it should given Tolkien's story. Like, the writers on that game may well have had a strong understanding of the themes of Tolkien and done their best to faithfully represent them, but, what they ended up writing was... this guy completely flouts the themes of Tolkien's writing for 2 full games, and then it finally catches up with him at the end of the second game.
Is this the game where they turned the giant spider into a sexy lady?
Yes, this is the game with Peak Spider.
I also like hags as being some sort of nature spirit. You can have them be like a corrupt nature spirit. You could have them be like the nature spirit of like the parts of nature that are sort of like repulsive, like a swamp or like parasitism or disease. You can also go back to the idea, because the hag probably comes out of the Celtic idea of the sovereignty goddess. The king would ritually marry the goddess of the land to sort of as the justification for the kingship. There's a different word that I'm looking for.
Source of legitimacy, maybe?
Legitimacy, yeah, because he's married to the land. That's why he gets to be king. this sort of turns into like the Loathly Lady of Arthuria, and I think that Loathly Lady might be in Chaucer, actually. Where the knight has to marry this woman who is she switches from being old to being beautiful depending on the time of day, and she tells him that he can pick whether she's beautiful during the day or night, and he tells her that she gets to pick, so she ends up being both beautiful during the day and night because he let her pick.
That's nice.
We also get the witches in Macbeth, who now you have to ignore the part where they summon Hecate, because that is probably something that was added later. It doesn't really fit with the rest. We don't really get an insight into their motivation, but they kind of instigate the whole plot. They put the idea of Macbeth being king into his mind, put the idea that he should murder his friend and all that stuff. You can ask yourself, why do they do this? So it's like, well, ultimately what their plan does is changes who the king is. They sort of manipulated the government of this kingdom. And one thing that gets overlooked is if you read Macbeth, at one point when they disappear, they don't just leave. Macbeth, or the guy he's with, says that they actually bubble into the earth. So like they're connected to the land, like explicitly by the text. They also have beards, which is partially a joke on the fact that they were being played by men. You can even see that in with Ursula in The Little Mermaid, who attempts to instigate a change in rulership via manipulating Ariel. I'm talking about specifically the Disney version.
Well, of course. What other versions are there?
The Hans Christian Andersen version, she explicitly does it because she hates mermaids. Like, she says that.
That sounds bad.
And Ariel and the Little Mermaid's like, alright, I'll go along. I don't see a problem with this.
I found one of the positions that shield guy could stand in. He was immune to my attacks from below. But he decided to dance between them anyway. Just fidget back and forth until I'd built up enough damage to kill him. I keep saying him. These are very obviously female shield people. I don't know why they read as male to me.
Also like the idea of having, in your D&D setting, having some sort of, like, hag goddess. I don't like Pathfinder's take on it, surprise, surprise. So Pathfinder has two, and they're both terrible. They have Gerona and Mastama, and first of all, they're the same thing. Like, they aren't different at all. They're even both chaotic evil, so...
You can't even justify it on the basis of the different letter.
Well, one of them is a goddess, a full-fledged goddess. The other is a demon lord. So that's totally different.
Oh, well, obviously, yeah. I don't know why you even brought it up. Did I mess something up? There's supposed to be a dog around here somewhere.
The miracle is taking us away, one after the other. Could we avoid this fate that is imposed on us by wills?
Original, or I guess not original, but second edition Dungeons and Dragons had goddess Segaloon, who was just... It goes back to the thing where you shouldn't make your god just a big thing. Like, your hag goddess should not just be a large hag. I think the way to work that out is whatever sort of god you're making, you need to think of, like, why would a non-standard worshiper worship this deity. So you have your hag goddess. Why does somebody who's not, imagine somebody who's not a hag worshiping her? What is the idea behind that? Why does somebody who's not orc worship Grumush? Why does somebody who's not a paladin worship Heronius? When we were playing the Kingmaker game, we ran into that barbarian tribe who had, I think, Girona as a patron. And I think I don't know how much that was from the actual Kingmaker.
They had... I actually can't remember. I may have just added the hag thing because, hags were all the rage at the time.
You say at the time as if they've gone out of style.
But yeah, I may have added that just because Girona ended up featuring much more in our version than in others.
But we talked about with how we ended up, and it was funny because Cam and I had been talking and about taking Girona in a different direction, and Cam was like, well, let's hear your version and we'll see, because he also had an idea for doing Girona kind of different. Let's hear your version. I was like, well, I imagine Girona, she comes to those who are cast out by their people. She's the goddess of those who are sort of displaced and are angry about it, who and she might sort of actively try to push them away, get them to embrace that fact, and sort of actively instigate in a way to sort of get them even more cast out, so they fall even deeper into her worship. And I explain this sort of like in The Witch, where the witch pushes Thomasin to the point where she's completely cut off from her and isolated from her family, and her family turns against her. So Thomasin ends up joining the coven because she's been cast out by her family, who thought she was a witch in the first place. And I explained this to Camille. Camille's like, that's almost exactly what I was thinking as well.
Pretty much. It seems like such an obvious way to go with a goddess of hags. Hags are out in the wilderness. They look essentially like people, except that, they are traditionally unattractive people. And, they are generally depicted as, bitter, vengeful people who, they have a chip on their shoulder with regards to, the current society in general, and, wish to wreak havoc upon it. They tend to take quite a bit of delight in doing so. Also, I think I lost the dog by defeating the boss too early. There was some collectible I was supposed to grab before I did that. Oh well.
But that also works well as a barbarian patron. I think one thing to do is also give the goddess another aspect, she's the moon goddess, and also so they worship the moon in the form of this sort of vengeful old woman who has led them out to the wilderness where they are not dependent on civilization or on anyone else, and they will wreak havoc upon civilization in her name. So you can see that as a hag goddess, but also a goddess that a tribe of barbarians would adopt.
Right.
So she's not just a big hag. And then you can have a crescent moon as her symbol. So you can see the barbarians tattooing themselves with a crescent moon. And I think that's an interesting goddess rather than just a very large hag.
Yeah. That is, in D&D style pantheons, you get a lot of gods who are just a big version of whatever their primary follower is.
Yeah, and it's boring.
Yeah.
Like Besmara in, we might have talked about Besmara. Besmara in Galarian, she's the goddess of pirates because she is a large pirate.
Right. Poseidon is not a big sailor. There's a lot more to Poseidon than just being the god that sailors pray to for a safe journey. He is not just a big sailor.
Yeah. Besmara should have just been a legendary pirate, and she's so legendary that now if you have her tricorn sea monsters will leave you alone. That of her. She didn't need to actually be a goddess. If you want a god that pirates would worship, like a god of the seas makes sense, or a god of like travel and trade, or a god of like whatever god of thieves they're worshiping would be fine. You don't need to have like this separate pirate goddess who is a pirate because their followers are pirate and they worship piracy. But then it's like also you like ask yourself like, 'cause you got to do this. You go, all right, why would somebody who's not a pirate worship Besmara? And the answer is they would not, and that's part of why she is not interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could do something with like a god of freedom, with like Libertalia, the Pirate Republic and stuff. That's a really cool vibe you could hang a hat on. So you could have a sea goddess of freedom, or like there's all kinds of things you could do with this, but instead she is just a big pirate.
And she would have been perfectly fine as a legendary.
Yeah.
So do you have any more thoughts on hags?
I think Pathfinder in general, and also fantasy, or Pathfinder in particular, but also fantasy writers in general, especially for D&D style settings, has sort of lost track of what the point of having a pantheon is.
Yeah.
Here's the reliquary where we put the bones.
What would you say the point of having a pantheon is?
And I mean, there is more than one. Firstly, religions are common, and it would be weird if your setting had none at all. But if all you need is a religion simply to say that, yes, these people are not somehow immune to the human need to anthropomorphize natural events, then you could just do some very basic animist stuff, keep it in the background. You're new.
Two faces greet you, penitent one. My name is Nacimiento. Look at my chest, upon which an ancient visage grows older and older. A face that does not speak, that does not think, while mine becomes younger, such that I now look like a child.
Sounds like a pretty good deal, actually.
That I do not understand its purpose. No matter how much I reflect on the sin that I may have committed to deserve it, the grace of the miracle is present, even in those who are punished. Perhaps I might reduce the magnitude of this sentence.
You're also gigantic. That probably.
Bring me the quicksilver.
I don't know if you've noticed. You're like 20 feet tall.
Under our feet, in any place at the whim of the grievous one, and I will mix it with the bile from your flasks, thereby enhancing its gift.
Is this how I have to upgrade my flasks now?
Bring me the quicksilver.
Yeah, this was not here the last time I played, so. I don't know why that guy's bothered, though, like. This is basically just the portrait of Dorian Gray, but instead of a portrait in your attic, it's an old guy's face on your chest. I'll grant you that is a step down from the portrait version, but, like, wear a better shirt and it seems like you should be good.
Also, again, he seems to have missed the fact that he's gigantic now.
Right. I almost wonder if there's a couple of these people who are just 20 feet tall for no other reason except that this makes it easier to draw a very large portrait that, demonstrates what their thing is. Like,
yeah. Because that would be hard to illustrate on a sprite the actual size of the penchant one.
Right.
So do you have any other thoughts on hags?
None off the top of my head. provided things continue to go well with the series. Natalia's Guide to Necromancy on Kickstarter now. Please back. I'll probably be writing a lot about hags when we get to the Wilderness and Fae one.
Now, do you have a preference between the three versions we discussed? The Brood, Parasite, Witch Plus, and Face Spirit?
I do like the Witch Plus version of, if you do enough witchcraft, it eventually affects your appearance, and becoming a hag is, a perfectly good way of having that effect manifest. I could have just waited until I got the thing that makes me immune to poison gas and would have made this little gauntlet very easy, but that would require remembering something while doing a commentary, which is harder than it might sound. Like, I'm pretty sure I messed up the Albero quest. I must have missed the healing herb they needed me to get from the Desecrator Church. The way that quest works is that there are 3 locations with the bosses in them. The first 3 bosses you have to beat in order to unlock the Mother of Mothers. And each one has an herb in it, and if you get that herb and bring it back to them before defeating the associated boss, then all is roses. But I must have missed that herb. Either that or I picked it up and didn't even notice because I was busy talking about something else, which does happen sometimes when I get into flow. But yeah. The thing that I think I like the best about the idea of Hag as Witch Plus is that from a D&D perspective, it allows you to make it a player option very straightforwardly.
Yeah.
And I love giving players the ability to play as weird things.
Yeah.
Like Natalia's has rules for playing as a vampire or a ghoul. The follow-up, which Natalia's did really well, so I've got a follow-up ready to go. And that's got rules for playing as a Watcher, which is a completely original eye-based creature. Any resemblance to any product identity creatures is purely coincidental. And yeah, I'm hoping to have that ongoing. I do, I'm not planning more than one book ahead, so I have no particular plans, no solid plans for any of the others, except that I think that if the Kickstarters continue being successful, the complete series will probably have a total of 9, which I will then gather together into a big old hardback book that'll be like 400 pages long. But yeah, I would have a lot of those. Now you can kill these people by swinging your sword at them.
But
I mean, I think the idea is that you're supposed to be putting them out of their misery. The thing is, though, that given the culture of this place, I assume this guy just has kinks for 1, fireplay, and 2, exhibitionism. So, you do you, buddy. Oh crap, I forgot about you.
So this just is a kink culture, is what we're...
I mean, it's amazing how much of Catholic guilt comes across as just like This is just BDSM from a time before having a BDSM scene was acceptable, isn't it? Like with like, you know, the flagellant guys, like, okay, you know, I'll bet you there were some of people who, you know, were self-flagellators because they didn't know what else to do about the plague, and this felt like doing something, you know, like it might appease a wrathful god. So, you know, they're just doing it because they don't know what else to do. Oh no, I died before recovering my guilt fragment. It's usually bad, but I don't think it's actually a big deal in this version. Yeah. Just means I lose more mana.
The statue, the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa that I mentioned, it kind of looks, the way it's done, it kind of looks like she's having an orgasm as she's being pierced by these shafts of light. And the image of Saint Sebastian, who is a saint who is portrayed as being pierced by arrows, is generally seen as being pretty homoerotic. He's usually nude and handsome and is being pierced by phallic objects.
Yeah, in a certain time period, virtually all art had to be either religious or historical. So you end up with, you know, if there's one constant, not to accidentally killed one of the exhibitionists. Sorry. If there's one constant, though, it is that artists want to draw dicks and boobs. So, yeah, you would get a lot of religious art that, you know, it was the perfect crime because anyone who claimed that this portrayal of a saint seemed very sexually charged, you know, you could immediately turn that around on them. Like they are, you know, they are filled with the ecstasy of the Holy Spirit. What kind of filthy degenerate mind do you have that you immediately assume it must be some kind of sexual ecstasy? What is wrong with you? And then there's this asshole.
Some sort of angel.
Indeed.
This is a difficult boss.
Not especially difficult. I mean, you know, she doesn't even get a proper health bar because she's just a mini boss. But she is annoying because she comes so far from any save point, unlike the major bosses who, unlike Dark Souls, there's one Dark Souls convention that they ditched, thank God, they tend to have save points right before a boss fight, so that when you lose to one of them, you can just immediately try again. Now, in fairness, you know, having the save point far away from the boss fight, does turn the boss into, you know, the capstone of a gauntlet, and thus a challenge unto themselves. But it is frustrating that you then have to, you know, go through 10-15 minutes of mooks you've, you know, already well memorized how to plow through in order to reach the boss who actually defeated you again.
With nigh of a trade, nigh of a name. My name is Redento, best pilgrim of the order of the genuflectors. Prithee, taketh nigh affront in my not looking at thy visage. For we that each moment lean forth, so as not to divert our eyes.
Yeah, I mean, look at this guy.
Such is our own
He's got
consent.
hands tied behind his back and his legs tied together with rope for some reason.
We are before hundreds.
This is clearly a
That's what
bondage
does.
thing.
Bell, erected upside down so that its ringing would make the earth tremble and reach distant lands. Now Hondo, the sound of
You got the same thing in Darkest Dungeon, actually, which was
that traveleth in
like, whereas with this one, it's actually hard to tell whether or not they're just aping a Catholic aesthetic, which, was itself probably expressing some similar desires, but wasn't explicit about it. And it's entirely believable that this game may just be reflecting that
who could help me?
without caring or even necessarily being aware of the fact that, this was a nascent version of BDSM. That was wise.
You just saw it and you had to hit it.
I remember it did something, but I forgot what.
Oh god, are we all the way back here?
Yeah, we don't have a mini-boss in the way anymore, though.
Oh, she goes away permanently?
Yeah. Yeah, she is something of an angel. And that, you remember that guy who, when we were going into the buried church where we fought the tree monster?
Yeah.
There's that guy who showed up outside with the giant hammer. He was like, I am ready, and then ran away.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not even going to bother fighting those guys. I'm just going to move on. Well, that is his dead sister. That.
Oh. That guy is cut in half already.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem to mind very much.
So you killed that guy's dead sister.
Yep.
Like, he's gonna be mad.
Probably, but I mean, the way he was talking, he already wanted to beat me up. Granted, he then immediately turned around and walked away. See, these whip guys, they're real easy on their own. But the devs are clever. They pair them up with other monsters to create an interesting challenge.
Ah.
For example, in this case, you have to manage... Because the whole thing with the whip guys, they run straight at you, they attack you if they get close enough, but they get knocked back if you swing at them. So you just spam the attack button at them, and they will knock them back and prevent them from getting close. Easy. Except that you also have to time your attacks to deflect the cross on that guy who's all cut in half and can throw his crosses at you. I don't know what the trick to this fight is, though. It looks like I can just wail on these guys. Okay. I'm going to need you to stop. Thank you. And now, so long as I'm not daft enough to smack them myself, that should stop the bells from ringing. Ah, you're new. Not in the sense of being new to this version of the game, mind you, because I've said that to indicate that a couple of times. Just, they popped up once I activated the lift. I'm pretty sure they were here before, but it's not like I have every enemy in this game memorized, so you know.
You can't recognize them on sight just having seen them once?
I didn't recognize what they do and stuff, but I can't remember their exact placement. Ow. Okay, I don't think jumping over that attack is going to work. Nope, it didn't.
Well,
Luckily,
valuable
I had
lesson
enough
was
help
learned
to
by
tank
all.
it. Huh?
I said a valuable lesson was learned by all.
Yep. There's got to be a prayer altar around here somewhere. I believe there's one in the center of this place. Hopefully I can get there soon, because I'm about to die.
You've already invoked the Hag Goddess. I don't think you can invoke her again.
You say I've invoked the Hag Goddess, but I don't think that's quite accurate.
She's been invoked on your behalf.
See, I keep trying to do the Conan thing, where like, I need the blessings of no gods, only my own skill and resilience. But like, there's always some hag goddess or shadow demon or whatever